take Netanyahu's claims with a grain of salt. I mean, honestly, probably this audience does already do that. This actually, surprisingly, was done by CNN, which was kind of shocking because CNN doesn't do a lot of whatever the opposite of saber rattling is. It doesn't engage in a lot of olive branching. So let's take a look at this clip of Netanyahu making some familiar claims.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close.
Right.
Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
If any of this sounds familiar, it's because it is.
Yeah, it's, reminiscent of the run up to the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Could be, might, would be able to, all these kind of hedges, so that later when these words are played back to you, oh, I never said it was certain. I said it was very likely, it was plausible, and so on. But look, the thing to understand about this clip, I've compared Israel inciting against or campaigning against nuclear proliferation in the Middle East to a drunken sailor slurring his way through a sermon against sobriety, and then immediately once he's done, going to the bar, demanding a drink, and being given a free bottle by the American bartender and being told it's on the house because we were so impressed by your oratory. It's absolutely absurd when you consider Israel has a nuclear arsenal of several hundred nuclear weapons and delivery systems to match. Iran does not. Iran has signed and ratified the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has not. Iran's nuclear facilities are under the supervision of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Israel's are not. Iran in 2015 agreed to the most intrusive inspection, monitoring, and verification system in the history of the nuclear age. There are no inspections of Israeli nuclear facilities. So the idea that somehow Israel is a legitimate partner in seeking non-proliferation, nuclear non-proliferation in the Middle East is absurd beyond words. And more broadly, there are really only two ways to deal with this issue. Either the Middle East is transformed into a nuclear-free region where no state possesses nuclear weapons, and for that matter, any other weapons of mass destruction, or Israel maintains its nuclear monopoly, in which case it will be repeatedly challenged until that challenge ultimately succeeds. And until it succeeds, we will see Israel launching increasingly devastating, as in this case, unprovoked wars of aggression against states that are seeking to challenge its nuclear monopoly. Because from Israel's perspective, as was demonstrated by its attack on Iraq's nuclear reactor in 1981 and in Syria in 2007, it is not about preventing, or not only about preventing any other state in the region from possessing a nuclear weapon. It is ensuring that no other state in the region has the technological capacity to develop a nuclear weapon.
And as you pointed out, I mean, no one, it's kind of it's like the open secret of of Israel that they have this nuclear arsenal?
Try to get any Western government to tell you that Israel has a nuclear weapon.
Right.
Seriously,
Nuclear weapons. Right.
no one will tell you. Ask them, does Israel have a nuclear weapon? And you'll get two answers. Iran must be prevented from acquiring nuclear weapons, and Israel has a right to self-defense. That will be their answer
Right.
when they're asked about whether Israel has it. It's it's kind of the dirty little secret of,
Right.
of the Western club. And everyone knows it. And behind closed doors, people talk about it openly. But no one will admit it in public because you can't acknowledge that a state that has refused to sign the NPT, that refuses inspections, has a nuclear arsenal, and still pretend that there should be no consequences attached. But that was in the old days, if I can use that term. In the world that has been created by Israel and its Western sponsors and allies since October 2023, all these norms and values, the limitations placed on state conduct by international law and the laws of war and so on, these no longer exist. These have been transformed into items for debate and discussion in textbooks or for archiving in a library. The final nail in the coffin is that the entire nuclear regulatory regime is being incinerated as well by describing this unprovoked Israeli war of aggression against Iran and the direct targeting of its nuclear facilities by a nuclear power as a legitimate act of self-defense.
Right. And I'm about to show a video that was on CNN, but first I'm going to read the way it was introduced by Halal Flow. Everyone should follow this account. So Halal Flow tweets, CNN airs an analysis of what it would look like if Iran dropped a nuclear bomb on Israel. We're going to watch that video, but Halal Flow points out Israel possesses undeclared nuclear weapons and is not a member of the IAEA, unlike Iran, which is a member and, according to a recent IAEA report, has no nuclear weapons. But that doesn't stop CNN from hallucinating about Iran nuclear bombing Israel. So let us take a look at this clip that CNN made.
Amid showers of missiles and thundering exchanges, the claims are growing louder. Israel and its allies insist the already sweeping attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities need to be decisive.
If you want this war to de-escalate, get the nukes out of Tehran's hands.
It's very simple, not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
For decades, Iranian leaders have been building a nuclear program which they say is for research and to generate electricity. Indeed, just days ago, Iranian leadership reiterated they have no intention of building a nuke. But intelligence and military analysts say Iran has long been stockpiling refined uranium, developing more powerful missiles, and mining the technical knowledge of allies, including Russia, with hopes of someday becoming the world's 10th nuclear-armed nation.
The Iranians are definitely much closer than they were 5 or 10 years ago, and it is certainly true that they've gotten a lot closer to deploying a weapon of this type than they were even a year or two ago.
How big would an Iranian nuke be? Some analysts suspect it would pack about 2/3 of the explosive power of some bombs developed by the U.S. in the 1940s and 50s. U.S. intelligence predicts a viable weapon could still be years away, but the Israelis argue it might come much quicker.
We decided to act because we saw enough uranium, enriched uranium, for 9 bombs, and all they had to do was weaponize them.
Netanyahu did not offer specific evidence. The Israelis have made such claims before.
Right here.
And the complete equation is more complicated. Any Iranian nuke would have to be miniaturized enough to be carried by a missile, plane, or other delivery mechanism. It would need to evade Israel's robust detection and defense systems, and it would have to work. But if just one made it through,
it could obliterate a large portion of a major city. It could make a port unusable.
It could cripple communications, shut down electricity, and poison the land with radioactive fallout. And so far, plenty of analysts note a lot of Iran's nuclear infrastructure is deep in the ground where Israeli bombs can't reach it.
Right now, Iran, if they were left alone, could reconstitute their program very quickly.
Again, the Iranians say they have no plans to produce a nuclear weapon, even as the Israelis say they just can't take their word on that, can't afford to be wrong about the nuclear aspirations of their old foe, not even once. Tom Foreman, CNN, Washington.
When the narrator of that clip said Iran would become the 10th nuclear power and showed a map of the world, I'm curious whether Israel was identified on that map.
Actually, you know what's interesting? So Ryan Grimm tweeted this out and said in this segment, speculating what an Iranian nuclear strike would look like, they briefly show an image of all the world's nuclear states and include Israel on it. Someone's getting a phone call. In fact, let me show, let's just see.
Yep, it's there.
There it is. So did CNN just admit?
But is it in pink or in red?
It looks like oh, you can't.
It looks like they are all in red except for Iran, which has a question mark, and every other one is confirmed.
Interesting.
Yeah, but Israel
definitely did get a phone call.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this, Mouin? I mean, there's like so much to unpack there, but we don't have all night, so just give me your couple of.
Well, I think this needs to be recognized as first and foremost a war launched by Israel to preserve its monopoly over the possession of nuclear weapons in the Middle East. And this is a monopoly that is not going to exist indefinitely. So either we work towards a nuclear-free Middle East, or we work towards some kind of workable arrangement to deconstruct that monopoly, or we're looking at periodic wars exactly like we're seeing today by Israel to maintain that monopoly. And it's a campaign that will ultimately fail. And it could be failing very soon precisely as a result of this war. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, I do not think that diverting attention from the genocide in Gaza was a primary motivation for Israel in launching this war. I think it's very much an added benefit, and it will become an even bigger benefit to Israel if it succeeds in persuading the Trump administration to launch a war of its own against Iran by, bombing Iran and then all the potential regional consequences. And when that hits, I think it's very important to keep very focused on what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, because Israel, particularly with the radical extremist loonies currently running its government, will see this as a golden opportunity. We'll see this as an opportunity that won't come again, and will do everything within its power to take advantage of that opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, Mouin. This has been wonderful as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And we will see you again, I'm sure. You're always a welcome guest, and people love your appearances. So thank you, Mouin Rabbani. And everyone should follow him on Twitter and subscribe to the Jadaliyya YouTube show.
Thank you.